Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're stepping into a very personal world.
Yeah, the world of a young girl during, well, incredibly tumultuous times,
Exactly. We're looking at excerpts from The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank.
covering that crucial period from June 1942 to August 1944.
And our mission really is to get a feel for her life in hiding, her relationships, how her perspective shifted under all that pressure.
Diaries are just inherently powerful, aren't they? They offer this raw, unfiltered glimpse.
Hmm.
And Anne's diary, given the circumstances, it's extraordinary. It really highlights how a personal story can illuminate huge historical events.
Okay, so let's picture it. Amsterdam, June 1942. Anne's just turned 13.
Right.
And those early entries, they're so full of, well, normal teenage life.
Absolutely. Birthday gifts, chatter about her friends, Jacqueline Van Marsen, Hanlia San, typical school stuff.
Yeah, there's that funny story about her teacher, Mr. Keesing, the math teacher, right? And her essay, quack, quack, quack.
A classic bit of cheeky defiance against being told she talks too much.
And boys, of course. There's a mention of Peter's shift, just a shy hello. It feels very relatable, very ordinary in a way.
And that ordinariness is key, I think.
Yeah.
It underscores just how violently her life and so many others was disrupted by the Nazi persecution that was ramping up.
Exactly, because just a month later, around July 42, everything flips.
The decision is made.
The Frank family goes into hiding, into the secret annex above her father's business.
And the planning involved, the secrecy, leaving clues suggesting they'd fled elsewhere. Just imagine the tension.
Their world shrinks to those hidden rooms. First Anne, Margot, her parents, then the Van Dons join them.
Peter, his parents.
Right. And later, Mr. Dussel, the dentist.
And Anne has her diary through it all. Kitty, she calls it.
It becomes her confidant, doesn't it? She mentions wanting a real friend.
It's more than just a record. It's where she processes everything, her fears, her hopes, her frustrations, things she maybe couldn't say out loud.
So life inside the annex, what was that actually like day to day? It sounds incredibly constrained.
Oh, absolutely. Constraint is putting it mildly. The biggest rule, silence. Utter silence during daytime working hours.
Because of the staff in the offices below.
Precisely. Any noise could give them away. So they had this rigid timetable for everything: waking, washing, using the bathroom, meals. Every creak of the floorboards was a potential disaster.
Wow. That kind of enforced quiet must have made the longing for the outside world almost unbearable.
You really see that in her writing. Her descriptions of the Westertoren clock chiming.
Yeah, like a connection to life outside.
Exactly. Or those tiny glimpses of the sky or a tree from a crack in the curtains. These small things become incredibly significant.
It really makes you appreciate simple freedoms, doesn't it?
Definitely. And then you have the dynamics inside the annex. 8 people living cheek by jowl under constant stress.
There's got to create friction.
Inevitably.
Yeah.
Anne is quite candid about the personality clashes.
She writes quite a bit about Mrs. Van Daan, doesn't she? Finding her pushy or sometimes vain.
Yes, and the tension with Mr. Dussel, almost immediately arguing over sharing her small room, even the use of a table.
And her relationship with her own mother is so complex. That feeling of being misunderstood.
And feeling closer to her father, Otto.
Yeah.
It's like the confinement magnified all these existing family
It
dynamics.
makes you wonder how those pressures might warp or speed up those kinds of relationship shifts.
I think it acted like an amplifier. Strengths, weaknesses, irritations, everything got dialed up in that enclosed space. Her diary is this amazing, almost anthropological study of human interaction under duress.
But they weren't totally alone in there. They had help.
Crucial help. Meet Pease, Bep Foskill, Mr. Kugler, Mr. Kleiman, these incredibly courageous people.
Risking their own lives daily.
Providing food, news, books, just that human connection to the outside. They were their lifeline. Anne writes about their fear, too, like after the break-in at the office building downstairs. It affected everyone.
That break-in must have been terrifying. A stark reminder of their vulnerability.
Absolutely. These helpers, their bravery, stands in such stark contrast to the persecution happening outside. Real solidarity.
And daily life itself was just hard. Resources were so limited.
Oh, the food. Anne talks constantly about the food or lack of it. Endless beans, potatoes, wilted vegetables. Substitute everything.
Rationing was tight, clothes wearing out. The sheer grind of it comes through.
But amidst all that, they really tried to keep their minds active, didn't they?
Yeah, reading was huge.
A vital escape. Anne mentions specific books, novels, biographies, mythology, trying to learn shorthand, French.
And listening to the radio, the BBC. clinging to news from the outside.
right? Hoping for good news about the war. She even notes things like broadcasts about the Dutch royal family or Allied landings, trying to maintain that connection to the wider world despite everything.
Still, the fear must have been constant underneath it all.
Absolutely. Air raids were terrifying. Anne describes hiding, Mrs. Van Daan being particularly frightened.
And the burglaries, like that real one she describes in detail, the noise, the fear of discovery.
It must have felt like the walls were literally closing in sometimes. Those moments really hammer home the psychological toll, that constant knife-edge anxiety they lived with.
Let's shift a bit to Anne herself, her own growth during this time. It's quite striking.
Really is. You see her views on her family evolving. That growing closeness with her father is very clear.
And the changing perspective on her mother. More critical, but also moments of maybe understanding. That reference to Mumsy feels significant somehow.
It's adolescence, definitely, but turbocharged by this situation. She's figuring out who she is while reassessing everyone around her in this incredibly intense, closed environment.
And then, of course, there's Peter Van Daan.
Ah, yes, their relationship.
It starts off kind of awkward, right? Teenagers.
Yeah, typical initial awkwardness, but then they find common ground, shared moments, especially up in the attic.
Reading together, talking.
It deepens into something quite significant, a real connection, companionship, eventually that first kiss.
And Anne writes about it all with such honesty, even noting Mrs. Van Daan's jealousy.
And Margot's observations, too. It's this whole teenage romance playing out against this backdrop of fear and hiding.
It must have been such an important emotional outlet for her.
Undoubtedly, a source of comfort, connection, maybe even a bit of normalcy in a completely abnormal world. It shows that basic human need for intimacy, doesn't it? Even then.
What always amazes me is her self-awareness for 13, 14.
It's remarkable, isn't it? She sees her own flaws, her contradictions. She talks about having two sides, the superficial Anne and the deeper Anne.
Yeah, and wanting to be better, wanting to grow. Where does that come from?
Well, perhaps when your external world shrinks so dramatically, you inevitably turn inward.
Makes sense.
The diary becomes the space to really excavate those thoughts, to try and understand yourself. It's a sign of her intelligence, her spirit, really.
And her ambition
Yeah.
to be a writer or a journalist.
Yes. She's actively writing, not just the diary. Stories, observations. She even reflects on the difficulty of writing about serious things when you're young.
That dream, that ambition feels like an anchor, something
Yeah.
to hold on to.
Definitely. It's purpose. It's a connection to a future she desperately hopes for. It's a way of asserting her identity beyond just being someone in hiding. A form of resistance, almost.
Of course, the outside world, the reason they were hiding, kept intruding.
Constantly. The news filtering in was often terrifying.
Anne writes about friends being arrested, sent to transit camps like Westerbork. The fear must have been palpable.
Hearing about the vegetable man who'd helped hide Jews being arrested, these weren't abstract threats. They were real, close, and getting closer, like the walls tightening.
Yet, amidst that darkness, there were glimmers of hope from the war news.
Oh, absolutely. D-Day, June 6, 1944. That was huge.
You can feel the surge of optimism in her writing around that time.
Finally, tangible proof that liberation might actually be coming. They discuss the invasion reports, speculate about the Germans leaving, moments of intense hope mixed with ongoing fear.
It became their lifeline, that news from the front.
It really did. It fueled their endurance, that belief that if they could just hold on a little longer.
But she also notes something quite sobering, doesn't she? About attitudes in Holland.
Yes, her observation that even some Dutch people who were initially sympathetic were becoming less so, perhaps resentful or scared.
It's a tough reminder of how pervasive prejudice can be, even in unexpected places.
It underlines just how complex and dangerous their situation was. No guarantee of safety anywhere.
So as we kind of wrap up this dive into Anne's diary, it's just incredibly moving, isn't it? Her voice, direct from inside that hiding place.
It's such a profound testament to, well, the resilience of the human spirit against truly horrific adversity.
And what makes it connect so deeply, I think, is how personal it all is. Her frustrations, her moments of joy, her confusion, her hopes.
Exactly. It's not just a historical document. It's the story of a young person grappling with universal things. Family, identity, love, fear, just under the most extreme conditions imaginable. That makes her relatable, even now.
Yeah. Those aha moments for me are really her insights into people, her determination to see beauty somewhere, anywhere.
And that persistent hope, even when things looked incredibly bleak, That flicker of hope for the future remained.
It's quite something.
Which leads to a final thought, perhaps, for you listening. Think about Anne's longing for just a normal life, her dreams, her inner conflicts. How do those resonate with you, especially maybe in times of uncertainty or feeling isolated in your own life? What can we really take away from her unwavering spirit, her commitment to hope, even in the absolute darkest of times? Her diary ensures her voice wasn't silenced, and it still speaks volumes today.